All right, in the top left corner of the map, the teal Terran player, Luolis, excuse me. In the bottom left hand of the map is the purple Terran player, My Darling. So Luolis is random. He's rolled random, and, he got Terran, which is apparently his main race. I don't know a whole lot about him or Team Super. I do know that he is European, and he's Masters level, and Terran is his main race. My Darling, whose main is Terran, is also Masters level. Both players are fairly even in playstyle so far. My Darling is ahead 1 win in the series, best of 7. And, yeah. See where this takes us. We do have the bunkers at the entrances. Hot diggity. Not a whole lot going on here, my goodness. This is just, yeah, pretty much the same builds I've seen out of My Darling so far. It doesn't really change too much the entryways unless you're going to cheese. So, let me go ahead and remind you guys, if you like this event, please participate. If you're Diamond and above, it is Diamond Master GM. All regions are accepted, so if you like this event and you want to participate, the minimum you can win first place is $10. The more people that play, the more I will increase the prize over time. So the very least that you can win is $10. Hey, it's not a lot, but hey, it's something, and you could say you won a cash tournament. Hot diggity. And we actually have, here we go, Command Center first. She made me eat my words. Different play style. Oh, it is Command Center first against Terran, so that actually could end up biting her in the butt. The first barracks is about to be completed here, so we're actually going to see some pretty effective play here. Excuse me. Oof, came out of nowhere. We don't have a refinery just yet from Luolis, which is probably a good thing for My Darling. My Darling is now dropping her barracks. So Luolis is going to be ahead an army by 1 whole Marine. But at the same time, by the time this SCV gets over here, though, My Darling will actually be pretty comfortable with defense. Well, not comfortable. I'd have to say she will have maybe 1 or 2 units. She's just now starting with her SCV, and Luolis is now taking his natural as well, but My Darling is 75% faster with the expansion, so she's going to be a little bit more saturated than Luolis. And Luolis is actually going to go to the bottom right, which is going to give My Darling quite a bit more time than... and she rightfully should have had, actually. She will have Marine here. She is supply blocked currently. That's a little unfortunate, and that might slow her down just a wee bit. But, boom, there's Command Center, giving her all the supply she needed, plus an orbital command on the way. Inside the main, we are not fully saturated, so we're not going to see a transfer there. We do have 2 barracks coming down here inside Luolis' main. There are 2 Marines getting ready to defend here. And My Darling is going to fight off this SCV as best she can. Will the stutter steps there? Yeah, just barely missed it. Alright, so Luolis is actually going to see that and sniped it. Luolis is only going to see that there is an expansion. There are 4 Marines here, and that is not really enough to do a whole lot. So My Darling is safe for right now. We do have the reactor going to come down, and it's going to take about 50 seconds for that. So it's going to be a pretty close window. If Luolis should want to actually do any kind of pressure at all, these 2 barracks won't actually be able to do a whole lot for him. So never mind. Actually, I think My Darling is actually in a pretty safe position. We're going to have the bunker come down as well. And My Darling is going to finish up with her factory first. So we're actually going to see a starport too as well. My Darling likes to go straight into a 1-1-1, and there it is. Boom. Aha. All right, so the bunker here is going to be completed. It's a good position here. It's not too far off the rim, not too far right down here, and it's not blocking anything off, and it's not going to get sniped from any of these positions here. So there's actually going to be able to defend a whole lot, quite a bit, if you will. We do have 2 tech labs coming down for Luolis, and Luolis has enough Marines to do a little bit of damage should they get through, but there's not really a whole lot on the field for Luolis to do any kind of offensive pressure that would do lasting damage. 2 Hellions already being made right now. And by already, it's a loose term. Luolis is starting to research Stimpak, and as soon as his tech lab's done, I'm sure he's going to start researching Meat Shield right away. These Marines cannot figure out what they're doing with themselves. They're just marching in formation left and right. Kind of crazy talk. We do have a refinery for Luolis, getting ready for some Banshee play if it should happen. 2 Hellions going in 2 different directions. I pretty sure that's intentional. I don't think the pathing in StarCraft 2 is that bad. Lualis moving his units a little bit forward just so we can have defender's advantage at the top of the ramp should anything come up. And my darling going between the Xel'Naga towers to get a good advantage, a good vantage point for vision. Lualis positioning his Marines in the event that anything should come up that ramp. It's a pretty good idea. Almost too good. Watching you. Alright, so we do have the factory right here. Level 1 upgrade and stim pack almost being finished for Lualis. I'm not entirely sure that we have the same thing going on here. Nope, no stim just yet for my darling. Blue Flame is being started, so we're going to see some mech play on Frost. Mech play on Frost is amazing. I mean, mech in general is just amazing. I mean, the mineral versus DPS conversion is just outstanding. It's just a little unfortunate that it's extremely slow. So really good spread here by Lualis. Anything that comes off these ramps is going to get pelted by a wall of iron. Siege tank and Raven being made here. So my darling is actually creating pretty much a bread and butter build here. This is what I've seen her use quite a few times, and this Viking is also doing a good job patrolling the area. We're like, yep, nothing shall get by. I am the Gandalf of this map, suckers. And Wallace also very well saturated both his bases. He could actually take a third now. There's been no pressure. Both players just macroing up. And I think we might see something soon. No, nothing. No, we're just along for the ride, guys. My darling supply cap at 70. You know what I've noticed? My darling tends to supply cap at 70. I don't know what it is about that number, but she always seems to land on 70. There are obviously 3 supply depots being made for my darling. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Lualis. We have 2 supply depots being made for my darling. But it's 70. It's something about that number she always seems to bump her head at. Level 1 upgrades being finished for my darling, and a combat shield here. And Lualis is just macroing up. Both players just macroing up. We have like this jail yard of Marines here, just waiting for something to make the mistake of running through there. It's kind of crazy how many units are just hanging out. We do have another command center here. For my darling. We don't have another command center for Lualis just yet, but obviously if you're going mech you need to have 3 bases, and you need to have 3 bases comfortably, really. It's the first attack typically comes around, what, 15 minutes for mech? Maybe? 13 minutes? I don't know. If you don't do any Hellion pressure, it could be, who knows. +1 attack is finished for Lualis. No meat shield just yet, but it is on its way. About 50 seconds right now, 40 seconds actually. +1 armor is actually just now being started. It's going to be 130 seconds. My darling is going to poke a little bit, and Lualis moved all of his units together right at the same time that my darling moved the Hellions out. Really bad timing because Lualis really wanted to do as much damage, and my darling is actually going to sneak in there. It can do quite a bit of damage. If she turns around, nope, she's not actually going to do any damage at all. She's not wanting, she's not having any of that. There we go. We do have blue flame damage. How many Marines will go down? Not as many as Hellions, though. But that's okay because Lualis is going to walk right into this. A little bit of a, defensive positioning with the tanks. Very good job by my darling. Lualis actually took a significant amount of damage. That's going to drain all the energy out of these dropships, rendering them pretty much useless aside from transport, which is not exactly something that Lualis needs to do. We do have the first dropship loaded up with Marines right here. Gotta try and circumvent, looks like everything. Yep, so we have, let's see here where it is going, right here. And my darling will actually scout it with the barracks and the natural and that Hellion. These dropships are doing as much as they can to heal as much as they can, but again, they are just out of energy. My darling doing so much damage to so many Marines at once here, and Lualis doing a stim. I mean, it's just not damage that he can really take with only three medevacs here. And the medevacs are doing as much as they can to heal, but I mean, they're oomed. They're pretty much out of mana. This medevac just lazily flying around saying, hey, whatevs. I just circumvented the entire vantage points that you would have had with Xel'Naga Towers. So, Lualis coming right down here. Gonna try and see what's going on. No siege from my darling. So actually Lualis is gonna be at an advantage if he stims. And there's the stim. And my darling is actually gonna lose a lot of units here. This is really expensive loss of my darling and doing a lot of damage, but still it's not gonna be enough. Lualis catching my darling off guard and out of position. That stim really coming in a clutch there. 1-1 armor and attack. And my darling is actually just now starting with armor plating for mech. Lualis sitting inside I'm sorry, not city side. And that drop's gonna get boom! Got one Marine off. Nice defensive play by the turret. Say, hey, you shall not enter my base. Marine is now actually inside the mineral line, gonna get tased to death, or drilled to death by these SCVs. What a way to go. Glad I'm not him. Wallace now is fully aware that My Darling has 3 bases being saturated, whereas he's just now getting his 3rd. But he is aware that he's going against mech play, against a player who's already on 3 base. So he's gonna have to figure out how to handle his MMM and tank. It is possible to beat mech with MMM. It's not easy, but if your macro's good enough, you can definitely do it. And looks like My Darling is doing a really good job of keeping the Wallace out of position, especially with the sensor tower here. And Wallace is kind of like he can't seem to decide which direction he's going. Is he going to go in? Is he going to go out? This sensor tower here is actually making it kind of difficult to maintain an element of surprise. So while Wallace is just going to go ahead and hang out here, trigger the alarms, and then my guess is he's going to come around the corner and flank. But My Darling is going to spot it with the barracks and the turret. Nope, he's just going to go through the front door. I mean, why not? The YOLO turret dive, or YOLO tank dive, excuse me. These supply depots have definitely healed a lot of energy. I wish there was a chart that showed how much energy or how many heals that units have had. So army supply is 75 to 85 to Wallace's favor. And My Darling trying to pick off some of these supply depots and pull in the Marines. It did a very good job pulling the Marines in. 1-1 now for My Darling with mech, and it's actually pretty good anti-bio. The Marauders and Marines with 1-2. You know, so they'll be able to pack quite a punch should they be able to get close enough, but with this many tanks, not really going to be able to get close enough. And these Hellions are actually coming around the bend here to do some damage inside Wallace's base. These Hellions can do quite a bit of damage if they're left unchecked. It ultimately looks like they're going to be left unchecked, getting inside the mineral line of the natural of Wallace. And these Hellions looks like they're going to do so much damage. Oh, never mind. Picked up pretty early on, but the tank's actually doing more damage than the Hellions. And inside the 3rd base, these Hellions are also, they actually have quite a bit of kills between them. I'm pretty sure Wallace is actually... I'm sorry, my Darling's at 26 SCV kills now, and this Hellion is still just attacking. And there we go, my Darling killing 27 SCVs just then, really substantial hit. However, you know, that only puts Wallace at 3 SCVs deficit. So really, you know, losing 27 is a big hit, but at the same time, you know, it only balanced the books. Level 3 upgrades is just now starting for Wallace, who is at 2-2 with his ground. My Darling is at 1-1 and catching her out of position again. Not this time, buddy. The Vikings coming in doing quite a bit of pretty good job chasing off those medevacs. The only downside here is because My Darling is entirely too slow. What Wallace needs to do is make sure that he forces My Darling into an engagement and then uses his bio's mobility to actually outposition the tanks here, which is not going to be easy. And that's the problem with bio. They're so susceptible to flash. You have to, when you flank against something that has flash, you have to be able to maneuver around it. And we actually have an attack right down here by Wallace on the 4th of My Darling. My Darling got to go ahead and just fight that off. So no deny on the 4th just yet. So back to this little contain. Looks like both players just kind of positioning for the upper hand. It kind of reminds me of a Metapod battle. They're both just using Harden to see who flinches first. And here we go. We actually have the first engagement here. This is going to be a big engagement if no one sieges. Do we have a siege from My Darling? No siege from My Darling. There's a siege. All this bio is actually going to overpower the tanks, I think. No. I don't know. Could go either way. Yep, the bio overpowered the tanks. There it is. I was right the first time. Shouldn't second guess myself. And never underestimates the positioning of your units. And that's exactly what Leolis needs to keep doing. He needs to make sure his positioning is better and he can utilize his mobility over My Darlings. There's not a whole lot following it behind us. We do have 4 tanks, 2 Hellions being produced in response to, Leolis' 1 Marine. one Marauder and one tank here. So we do have replenishment, a little bit of macro behind this. Both players should pretty equal for upgrades. No, actually, My Darling isn't upgrading vehicle armor just yet. So it's actually 1 armor, 2 attack. If we go ahead and look at army supply, it's now actually quite balanced.